Hey friend, welcome. I'm so excited to have you here listening to another episode of the Pattern Design Circle podcast. Here we talk all about the ins and outs of designing knit and crochet patterns and running a business that makes it all possible. I'm Jessica, your host, knitting pattern designer, design mentor, and the friend in your ear. Can't wait to dive right in. The Pattern Design Circle podcast is sponsored by the Pattern Design Circle, a membership community for knit and crochet pattern designers that are feeling lost, lonely, or frustrated in their business. It connects you with a supportive community that's always eager to answer your questions and help you through the hard times. And there's loads of resources and activities specifically catered to business and designing. Sound like your jam? Check it out at snickerdoodleknits.com/design-circle. That's snickerdoodle, like the cookie, knits, knits.com/design-circle. All right, let's get into it. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Pattern Design Circle. I am so excited to have you here, to be here chatting in your ear once again for another episode of Designing Businessy Talk. So in this episode, we are going to talk about reflecting, and this is specifically in the context of reflecting on the past year, in order to move forward, to plan, to set goals, all of that. So this is the first of a series of episodes really talking about how to set goals that are achievable, that are inspiring, that we actually want to move forward with and have enough motivation to complete them. So reflecting is, I'll admit, one of those things that I have a love-hate relationship with. I know that it is so valuable. We learn from things that we do well, things that we don't do well. Basically, we learn from the past, right? And so we can do better if we reflect and learn on those things. The hate part of that relationship is knowing that it takes time. Like, I have to sit down and do it. You have to think about it. And sometimes you have to think a little deeply about it and acknowledge parts of yourself, things that you've done or haven't done, that you would rather not. So I admittedly am not the best person at reflecting. But I know when I do it, I'm thankful that I did it, and it can help things go more smoothly afterwards. So reflecting is something that I think is so valuable on a weekly aspect, weekly time frame, especially especially like financially, just keeping up on that kind of stuff. But also monthly, quarterly, and like after a launch or a promotion, reflecting and actually considering what went well, what didn't go well, what did I like, what didn't I like, how did this go in comparison to what my goals were. So I as you probably know, I am more of an emotionally driven person. This hasn't always been true, but as I've kind of, I don't know, grown personally, gotten to know myself better, and stepped away more from kind of the expectations that I felt like society had on me, I have learned more of this very deeply emotional part of me. And so the reason I'm sharing this is because I am feeling more and more drawn to setting goals that are value, mission, purpose driven, that are related to who I want to be as a character, what I want to do for the world, in terms of more emotional things like inspiring or encouraging or uplifting, rather than these more logical, tangible kind of things like making $1 million or um, setting out to do these certain projects. I just feel more fulfilled when they have more of those emotional aspects. related to them, tied to them. So because of that, I am much more interested now in learning how to set goals that are emotionally driven, rather than purely being data driven. That doesn't mean I'm getting rid of data altogether. I still love numbers. I'm a math person too. But kind of like the inspiration behind my goals being related to how I want to impact the world rather than just tasks that I want to do. So, the reason that I'm sharing that now is because some of these things that I'm going to talk about in reflecting are related to that. Like really paying attention to the feelings and the motivations and the inspirations to know how to replicate that or to do better in the future, to set goals that actually are inspiring, that will actually feel good, that feel aligned, all of that. So, without further ado, I do have questions listed out here to share with you. I don't always have notes or an outline for my discussions here on the podcast, but I went ahead and listed some things here. So, first of all, I like to well, okay, first of all, before the first of all, know that you can address these questions in any order that you want, and if there's some that you're like, "That just doesn't resonate with me, that doesn't make sense for me," then you don't have to answer it. Like, you can pick and choose from this list. This is just a list of ideas that felt meaningful to me. So, first of all, reflecting on how the year felt. And I would go deeper than that and say month by month. How did each month feel? If quarters make more sense to you, you can do quarters. But for myself, quarters are just kind of like this abstract time length that are meaningless. A month has a little bit more meaning to me. So how did these specific time periods feel? Did they feel good? Did they feel exhausting? Did they feel troubling? So many emotions. And then looking specifically at how different projects or tasks, whether that's a pattern release, maybe it's a promotion that you did, maybe it's a series of live videos that you did, a podcast that you're hosting, a Patreon that you are hosting, membership of any sort, teaching courses or classes, whatever it is. And as you're looking at this, you might think of things that are outside of your business as well. That's totally, totally okay. You know that I am very much a fan, a proponent of thinking of life as a whole. So our business is part of this whole life experience, but it's not all of it. And learning what part of our life our business is fulfilling and what parts it doesn't need to fulfill, I think is really valuable. Okay, so what this year made you feel most aligned with your vision or your goals? What felt like you were just like achieving it? You were doing the things that you had set out to do. What made you feel happy? But also the last one, you don't have to have the most. You could do several things that felt aligned with your vision or your goals or your purpose or your mission. You could look at each of those individually, your why. What made you feel happy? And I would also encourage you, as you're thinking of these, if you think of things in personal life, also try to think of something in business. Um, but what made you feel happy? Was it tech editing? Was it designing a cowl versus socks versus a hat? Was it teaching? What were the things that really lit you up and made you happy? What made you feel frustrated? Was it your social media? You said that you were going to post all these things, say 3 days a week you were going to post, but you didn't have a structure, and so you felt like you were just flailing your arms and you were frustrated. So the reason we're asking these questions, right, for reflecting is so that we can learn to do better. So if you find that something in particular is frustrating, you might find that you can hire it out. You might find that you can set up systems to make it better. So you might set up a template. You might set up just like a document of ideas, whatever it looks like for the thing that you're frustrated about. What made you feel fulfilled? What like just really filled your cup? Was it designing? Was it teaching? Was it maybe some other hobby that you've been working on? What made you feel excited? Maybe you were excited to start the project. Maybe you were excited to release the pattern. Maybe you were excited to go live every week with your besties. What was it that made you excited? And also, what was it that made you feel scared? And I really love this question because I think we can go so much deeper. So let's say I felt scared going live for the first time back in January, but I committed to go live once a month. And I found that by May, I wasn't feeling nearly as scared. By August, I was feeling more confident. And so that can be proof that we can do things that are scary and that they can become less scary, that we can become more confident. So we can look at, why did I feel scared? What actually felt scary about it? Does it feel scary anymore? What can I do so these kinds of things don't feel as scary in the future? How do I want to approach things that feel scary in the future? Alrighty. So then I have a bunch of planning notes in here too, but that will be for another episode. So I want you to really think about this reflecting work before we get too far ahead of ourselves, okay? And also, I think it is so valuable to write these things down. Whether you write them down in your notes app, whether you write them down on your iPad, whether you write them down in a Word document on your computer, whatever it is, maybe you write them out by hand on a piece of paper. I find it so valuable to write these things out for the sake of referring to them. Maybe when you're setting goals, maybe when you were at start of Q2 and trying to figure out what actually makes sense, what do I want to move forward with, or for next year, reflecting back and looking at, what your reflection from this year looked like. So, alrighty, let's go to segment number 2. What are you most grateful for about this year? And sometimes it's not the easy things that we're so grateful for. Maybe we're grateful for a really difficult thing that we went through that helped us to grow. Maybe not too. That's fine. What went well this year? What didn't go well? And well is entirely up to your own definition. It might mean that it went according to plan. It might mean that it didn't go according to plan, but it went even better. It might mean that you were just really pleased with the result. It might mean that you achieved the goal, whatever it looks like for you. What goals did you achieve? How did you celebrate those goals? And maybe look at the goals that you did achieve. Why did you achieve those things? What was kind of like the motivation behind them? And did your celebratory practice influence which goals you achieved? So were there maybe kind of some incentives that you had established for these goals that was more exciting, more, it just gave more inspiration and motivation to actually achieve these goals. So really kind of looking at, was it the certain set of goals that I tended to achieve? And, was that because it's this certain kind of category? Was it the things that were really easy to do quickly? Was it because each time I rewarded myself with a chocolate cake or whatever the thing is for you, a slumber party with friends? I don't know. Um, and then for the goals that you didn't achieve, or even goals that you did achieve, are there goals that you want to bring into this next year? Are there things that you said, I set out last year, like a year ago, beginning of 2023, you said that you wanted to design a pattern every month. Whether you achieved that or not, is that something that you want to bring forward? Or is that something where you're like, that was too exhausting. That is not in alignment. That did not make sense for my business model. It's not something I enjoyed. Um, so what do you want to bring forward to this next year? And what lessons did you learn that you want to bring forward? So, did you learn a lesson of compassion? Did you learn that designing a pattern every month is too much? Did you learn that you're really inspired by chocolate cake? What are the lessons that you learned that you would like to bring forward with you in this next year? Alrighty, so section number 3. Did your goals that you set for the year, or maybe just for the last quarter or whatever you're looking at, did they feel aligned? Were they something that you were still interested in partway through the year? So how many times have we had goals that we set at the beginning of the year and we're like, oh, I want to do this, I want to accomplish this, it's going to be so amazing. And halfway through the year, or maybe even 2 months into the year, you're like, that's not so exciting anymore. That's like it just doesn't have the appeal. And it's totally okay. I find for myself a lot of the time that happens when I am, caught up in the excitement of planning and wanting to challenge myself and achieve all the things, and not all of the goals were so aligned. And um that's why reflecting is valuable. To really pay attention. What are the things that actually matter to me? Because a lot of times for myself, I know that that is related to societal or entrepreneurial business people, just expectations or ideas, goals that everyone else, and if you're listening to the audio version, I just did air quotes, everyone else is doing. Or maybe it's your favorite person in the industry. They do this, so I want to do this. But I find that when it's doing something because it's what somebody else says I should do, or because it's what somebody else is doing, and it's not because it's what I actually want for myself, that there's a lot less kind of motivation to accomplish that, to achieve that. So, um, the goals that you did achieve, did they feel important? Did they feel exciting? Did they feel challenging? What motivation was most compelling for working toward the goal? Was it because it had a deadline on it for somebody else? So it was like an outward, an external force that had this deadline and this expectation. Was it because it was the excitement of learning something new? Was it because you're excited to grow your portfolio, your, your collection of patterns, what you sell or you offer? Um, was it because it was something making your life easier? So what's the motivation behind the goals that you achieved? do you see like any is there like a correlation that 50% of the goals that you achieved were because they had external deadlines? So it might be helpful for the future to continue to have goals with external deadlines. Or if it's, you know, everything that you achieved was because you were really excited to learn something new, continue to incorporate new things, etc. So really, what is the motivation that propels you, that motivates you, that inspires you, that helps you to actually get things done? And maybe look at the goals and the achievements, the types of things that you achieved, that you accomplished. Are they a certain kind of like category? Like, was it primarily new patterns? Was it primarily community or engagement oriented? Was it primarily, um, oh, I don't know. I just lost it. Anyway, oh, like admin tasks, like your website or your email. What are the kinds of things that you achieved, and what are what are just the common threads there? Because if it's like there's a certain category that you just really enjoy, if you have more of that on your goals, you'll achieve more of that. And if there are things that repeatedly aren't getting done because they're categorically something else or have a different motivation, look at them and consider, is this still something that I want to achieve? Is this still something that's important to me? If yes, what can I do? How can I spin it so that I enjoy it more? And what or not and or what can I do to get this accomplished without me doing it? So is it something that I can hire out? Is it something that I can, exchange services for? Is it something that I can give to ChatGPT? Alrighty. So section 4 of 5. This is going back inward looking again, a little bit more emotional, but or personal, I guess, not necessarily emotional. But how have you changed this year? How have you changed as a person, as a business owner, as a designer, as a creative, as a teacher, as a mentor, as a community host, as a marketer? There are so many hats that you wear. How have you changed? I know for myself, I have changed dramatically in personal growth areas. There were a lot of big things that happened this year that changed me in very significant ways. Um, and so what's different now about you today versus you a year ago? What is different about your values? What is different about your interests? What is different about your goals? What is different about your motivations? What is different about your priorities? What is different about, just what you actually want to do in your business, what you want to achieve, the projects that are important to you? The reason I think this is so valuable to look at is because from a New Year's resolution perspective, we are used to seeing in society people just kind of recycle same kind of goals, um, recycle throughout society, but also personally recycle. So it might be a book reading goal. It might be a health goal. It might be a number of projects goal. It might be a how much yarn I buy goal. But if we're recycling those goals and they're not meaningful to us, we're not achieving them, they're not, just like completely aligned, then it doesn't really make sense to realign that goal from my perspective. It feels like just kind of setting yourself up for failure. especially if you don't actually want that thing very bad. But instead, I would rather set us up for success. So the way that we can do that is to think about what's actually really important to me. What is actually, the needles that I want to move? Um, is it money? Is it engagement? Is it community? Is it influence? Is it impact? Is it things like being inspirational or encouraging, motivational? Um, and so I think it's important to recognize who we are today. Don't be making these goals based on who you were 5 years ago or even who you were a year ago. But be in touch with who you are today, who you want to be a year from now, and make choices accordingly. And now I feel like I'm going down a rabbit hole that's for a future episode. So before I continue talking about planning stuff and goal setting stuff, let's move on to the last section. And again, like I said, you can move these around however you would like. I find this one is the easiest from the sense of it's looking at facts, it's looking at numbers. It's not something that is inward looking so much. It's not requiring you to really reflect and think honestly. And like a lot of those questions, there's not really a right or wrong answer, and nobody else is definitely going to be able to tell you if it's a right or wrong answer. So these questions are more, it's just the numbers, the facts. So it's looking at the numbers. What was your revenue for the year? How much money came in? What were your expenses? And what was the profit? So money that came in minus expenses is the profit. Looking at that revenue, where did that come from? Was it 85% pattern sales and 15% ad revenue on your blog or whatever your streams of income are? Then of course, for looking at those numbers for each part of your business, where the money is coming from. From there, you can look at ROI, how much time, money, energy you put into those things, and what you got in return. That can help you to decide what is most worth your time, money, and energy to put into. Also remember that the return on that investment, the return, it doesn't have to just be money. It can be a lesson learned. It can be something that fills you up internally. It can be, engaging with people, connecting with people. There are so many different things that are worth it that aren't money. And then expenses, looking at, all right, where's that money going? What's the ROI on that expense? Is this something that I want to keep paying for or not? And then the profit, is that something that, like, how do you want that to change, or do you want that to change moving forward? And then just looking at the money between your different offers. So all of your patterns, your courses, your classes, your memberships, if you have different tiers in your membership, all the different things, how did each of those perform in response? Like maybe you want to look at signups, maybe you want to look at revenue, whatever you want to look at. Maybe you want to look at all of them. And then looking at the seasonalities, what was the trend monthly or quarterly or seasonally in those sales? Are there some seasons that are higher versus lower? Are there things that then you're going to want to do to lean into that or to counteract that? The numbers of from your promotions. So if you had a sale, maybe you had a birthday sale, maybe you had a launch discount. How are those things performing? Are there certain kinds of promotions that are working really well that you want to do more of, or that you want to do exclusively? Are there certain kind of promotions that maybe it just feels gross now, or maybe it's not performing well in whatever your metric of success is? And then taking a look at leads, looking at engagement. So things like follower count on social media, subscriber count on email, open rates on email, viewer and engagement counts on social media, click-through rates on email, and sales for all of the things. And then, like I mentioned, taking a look at return on investment. So that can be return on investment in your products. That can be return on investment on your platforms, your marketing strategies, all of the things. And those numbers can really help us to see what's working well, what's not working well, from a data perspective, from a strictly numbers perspective. And I know that it can feel hard to do these reflections, to reflect on things personally, to reflect on emotions, and to reflect on numbers. But, and I know this is easier said than done, it takes practice 100%. I encourage you to try to look at these things as numbers, as data points, as information, just to help you. Information to help you make decisions moving forward, information to help you become more aligned, to help you really achieve the things that you're interested in, to help you set goals that you're excited about, to set yourself up for success. There are a lot of emotions that can come up if we're not careful, of feeling not good enough, or feeling like we didn't achieve enough, or feeling like a failure. And I encourage you to not feed those thoughts. Pay attention to what you did well, what you learned, how you've grown. Remember to give yourself grace. A lot has happened this year in your business, outside of your business. There are a lot of things that went well. There are a lot of things that probably didn't go well, and that's okay. It's totally normal. You're living a human experience, and you've got this. So this is just information to help you make a better informed decision moving forward. Alrighty, I hope you find these questions helpful. I so suggest some of this reflecting, just thinking about how things went, what you felt, what went well, all of that, in order to move forward with really kind of planning and strategizing. So I will see you again, or talk to you if you're listening and not watching. We'll chat again soon, all about more planning stuff and strategizing and goal setting. So I look forward to talking to you then. And until then, maybe start to think about this reflecting. If this is something that you don't want to do until the new year, absolutely no worries. If you can bookmark, favorite, whatever you need to do for this episode so that you see it again come early January, when you're in that mindset, that absolutely works too. Wow, thanks so much for listening to this episode. If you found it valuable, please share the podcast with a designer friend. And if you have a minute, leave a review. It's so helpful for me and means the world to me. Chat soon.